good morning again. My name is Lina and I'm the head of Rocket. I'm super excited to invite you and especially Accenture with their Tech Vision report here for the second time at Rocket. This is the report I really, truly, honestly wait. And I wait for this weekend because I can hear the insights and I don't have to read them. But I'm hoping that you will have a great morning and take a lot of insights from this report, because we all know that technologies have been part of our lives for a very long time, and I hear that it might become part of us. So without any further ado, I would like to give the stage to Ivo Almanis, the CMT industry lead at Accenture Baltics, to take the stage. And I wish you everyone a very insightful and good event this morning. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. Morning, everyone, and good morning also people online. Just to inform all that we are streaming live now for this event, right? So welcome to our technology vision. We do that for the last 20 years, right? Every year we come out, and this is not the technology vision for this year. This is technology vision for next 5 to 10 years. And whenever we did it always has been very precise and sometimes even a bold statement from our side. Like 10 years back, we said that every business will be a digital business. At that time, it sounded a little bit like crazy, how the industry can be the digital business, right? But today we know it's true, and many businesses are not only the digital, they also do a lot of the artificial intelligence, etc. So whenever we do this, we don't do this as an isolation. We actually look at the scale, what happens, and especially in the different technology innovations, right? So if we look now at what happened in different areas over the last years, we see that some of the things like computers, internet, mobile phones, they have reached a plateau. Right? So we don't expect them to grow more. But if you look at the last two, like the cloud spending and the GenAI spending, we see the exponential growth, and we believe that it's going to continue the same way. So we are right here now that when it grows. But, right, there has been skepticism about the technology all the time. So let's look back a little bit, like the first press of the printing went out, and what people said is, no, we shouldn't do that because there will be the overload information. People will kind of not think. They will kind of too much to read. I mean, just wondering what they would tell today with the overload of information, right? And then we know that everything today runs on electricity, but when electricity first came out, which is kind of basis for us today, right? No, this is kind of dangerous. You can't do it. People will die, and etc., etc. And then, of course, the next one was the telephone. This is the evil. There was even like ideas that people will not go to concert halls because they will listen broadcast music through the telephone. And I'm not even talking about the radio and television, right? We all know. But then even lately, like in the age of internet, I mean, there had been articles in Atlantic Press, right? That is the Google really making us stupid? I mean, because we are not learning, we are just searching. And whatever we do, and even if we talk now about the GenAI, etc., there will be, and there is the skepticism whether the technology can really take forward, right? But, I mean, over the years, we have been adopting to technology. We have been learning how to use the technology through the different devices, like through the keyboards, through the screens, etc., etc. But now it's a turning point. It's an inflection point when it turns around. The technology is learning to understand us. So if you can see now, it took us many years actually for the technology to understand how we write, how we speak, right? To do the computer vision to understand the images. But if you look at the latest developments in reading comprehension, language understanding, it was much faster. And not even talking for the latest one, which is really interfering and grammatics and coding and etc. Yes, it lacks a little bit behind the human understanding, right? It hasn't reached really the 100 level. But guess what? In another 2-3 years, or maybe even shorter, the computer technology will understand and do better than the average human. So it's just a matter of time. So we are now in this era and a completely different approaches in the technology. This is the change point, right? The technology will become more human and understand us better, right? Will actually give us more creativity. We're going to do more. We can spend the time. But that, of course, also enhance us as a human beings and actually increase our productivity. We're going to spend more time on the things we love to do, less on the boring stuff, and going ahead. Of course, for the businesses, it means one thing. If the technology is more available, you will not rely only IT people who can run the technology. You actually can talk to any person in a business and say, you can do now the technology work because it's more intuitive, it's much, much easier to use, right? And that means for the businesses, you can employ more and more people actually to do the work. And your business can grow much, much faster because people are enhanced. And we really look at the technology as kind of enhancer, like us being on the steroids, right? We can do more in the same time, and everyone talks about a 4-day week. Why not? I mean, we're gonna do the same or even more work actually in the same time. Good. The business and age of GI. We asked the business leaders all across the world, right, what they think about how it's gonna impact their business, and 87% said, yes, it's gonna disrupt my business. What it means, right? First of all, they will need to reinvent every part of the business. So you're not talking about that you're going to use the GenAI, the business is going to use GenAI in one part of the business. Let's say optimize the call center part. Let's optimize the supply chain, etc. You will need to look through the whole business. The other point is it will redefine the industry leaders. Let's take S&P 500, right? Since the 1950s, there are only 10% of the companies who are still in that list. But if you look for the last 20 years, there are 15 new companies which came from the software and high-tech area, just in the last 20 years. In a top 100, not even a top 500, in a top 100. So the technology and the software companies actually are getting the ones who drive the era of the business and going ahead. And of course, this technology will unleash the human potential. If you look at any part of the business, whether you're an accountant or you're a business leader or you're a supply chain manager or whatever, it's gonna change the business. So what we say is the last year, the 23, was actually a year of experimentation. We all know the technologies came out, everyone is, yeah, this is a good way, let's try it out, pilot, etc. But this year, it's actually gonna be the development at scale. So what we're gonna see, and we see already, is that companies will use the GenAI and do that really, really at the scale. Okay, now we come to the theme of our technology vision for this year, human by design. I'm sure many of you have seen these dystopian pictures of how humans gonna look after like 500 years, 1,000 years, right, when you use the technology, right? Gray skin because you're inside, big eyes because you look at the screens, I don't know, short hands because we're always like this, right, and all of that. And those are the funny pictures, right? We all kind of look at them, etc. But let's face it, this is our understanding how we're going to look. This is our perception how we're going to look if use the technology. But is it true? Is it really true that this is how we're going to use the technology? Most probably not. And I really would say that I believe not, because, and this is why I also have chose the theme of this year, the human by design, because our kind of way of doing the business, interacting with technology is changing right now, and it has to change very much, right? And etc. Has it been unhuman in past? Let's face it, yes, right? So how we did it? We did it through the like limited number of commands to talk, right? The technology didn't understand us. Right? We had to look at the screens all the time. As a result, we actually had the 3Ds, we had the glasses, most of the people, right? And go on. And technology was actually, in fact, doing the things we couldn't do or didn't like to do. It actually wasn't doing what we like to do, right? And that all leads. So now, and this is why we kind of believe in this topic, the human by design, is because it is changing now. There is this inflection point that this is turning around, that first of all, the technologies are becoming more human. As we look at the picture, right, they're really understanding us. And then interaction from our side with technologies is also becoming more our natural way, right? Where it comes from, I mean, we all know, the GenAI, of course, first, right? When introduction of GenAI, it's much, much easier for us to communicate with the technologies and do that all in that way. But it's not only the GenAI, right? It's also the spatial computing. So blurring the physical and virtual worlds, how it happens. And then the next one is human brain interface, or actually how we communicate with the technologies. And those three main technologies, main areas which actually going to discover later on, right, are the ones which drive that big change going ahead. And the GenAI, to give you some example, I guess you all have seen that, right? I mean, you take the Adobe Photoshop, you take the piece of the picture, you just describe in your own words, fill it with something, or expand the background, and it does. If someone would tell you that like 3 years back, would you believe that you can do with your own kind of way of saying, fill the picture? Most probably not. Boston Dynamics, we all know those robots, right? They implemented ChatGPT in the Boston Dynamics robots. So we as humans can give the commands in a voice what the robot has to do, and they reply back in a voice on their kind of results, right? Would it be possible like 5, 10 years back? No, we saw it as science fiction. It looked like a science fiction, but today is actually the robot, the reality, right? But if we think about that like a little bit broader, so what kind of AI we are okay? What kind of AI we actually want to have? Where are those boundaries, and who will take the responsibilities of AI results? An even better question, what is our role then? If the AI can do a lot of the things, what are we going to do? Have fun in Bahamas? Fine, but how long, right? So we still want to do something, so it's not going to be there. But let's face it, the technology and AI especially will lead us in trouble as well. It's not only this bright and shiny story out of that, there is also the backside. Misinformation, fraud, deep fakes, and etc., etc. This is why when we talk about AI and going ahead, the security and kind of responsible AI is actually the thing number one. We should put this as a first, not as the second or the last when we talk about innovations. If you look even in past, let's say, how we did innovations. Okay, so let's go to the main teams. We have 4 teams this year, and every year we have 4 or 5 of them, and if you read the report fully, you can see how those teams evolve over the years, right? How they migrate from one another. It's not like every year we come up with the new teams, actually. There is a continuation. And those 4 actually are at different stages right now, and different maturity, and evolving at different speeds. So let's take the first one, a match made in AI. In fact, this one is all about our relationship with data and information is changing. In the past, it has been all based on a search. I mean, if we think really, most of the traffic to websites go through the search. The way how we found the products and the goods, etc., is through the search. The way how the companies sold us or marketed us is through the search. So the search is so fundamental in today's business, especially digital business, that we take it for granted. But this is how it works, right? But the search is, we can see this as librarian. You go to the library, you say, I want a books, I don't know, about science fiction. You get a list of 10. And then you start a list, etc. And then you decide, okay, I'm going to read not the first one, maybe the third one is good. That's how it works so far. And then 15 months back, ChatGPT comes out, and how it changes? We don't want to search results anymore. We want answers. We want one answer. And ChatGPT is providing that. So we're changing the whole mood from I want results and search results to want an answer. So from librarian to advisor mode. And if you think about the businesses, for example, you're a car manufacturer, how to sell the car? I mean, you need to be on the top of the list, the best car of 2024. And you know, make it in the search results, and the people will see it. How are you going to do that in a ChatGPT world, in a GPT world? And when you have hundreds of them, how are you going to market? So there will be huge disruption in the businesses. How are they going to do that? Our research showed that an average 44% of the businesses will be impacted by Gen AI. I mean, either people's job will be replaced or the people's work will be enhanced, etc. If you look at the banking, it's 72%. Insurance, 68%. Some industries less, but an average is 44%. So the conclusion here is that we don't need to think so much about the technologies, but actually how much we invest in the people. Because the people's job and way of doing business actually will gonna change a lot, right? So we need to look at that. To give you a couple of examples of this one, Telefonica, one of the biggest telcos, right? They built a GenAI solution for the call center people to respond to landlord requests about the lease of the towers, right? And they saved 30% of the time for the agents to respond, and the satisfaction went up 68%. Just a simple solution, right? Then we look at Cisco systems, the sales team. Bunch of data, information, what they need to provide to the people buying their services, the companies buying their services, right? Hard to find, etc. So they structurize the information, how they can find it, and they're saving like 4 million hours a year for the sales team to respond to requests. Morgan Stanley, financial advisors, the same challenge. A lot of financial information. You can give advice, but you have a bunch of internal sites, you have a lot of information in PDF files. How do you respond quickly? They build the ChatGPT-4 chatbot. So they're saving, again, a lot of information really to spend to respond to those requests, right? People are more happy, they do it faster, etc. But then there, of course, are the other cases. Last year, around this time, lawyers submitted a brief to the New York judge saying, oh, there are those cases similar to mine, right? This is why you need to release my client. But there is only one problem. There are no such cases. The ChatGPT actually hallucinated. And the lawyer said, I didn't know. Back then, of course, they didn't know, but today we know that it happens, right? So there will be, and we need to think how we build these tools actually to be on the right side rather than on the wrong side. Good. So talking about the next, and this one I like the most, and I think one day I'm going to say this phrase, meet my agent. Yeah. So today when we talk about the GenAI and talk about what those tools can do, we practically give them a small area of kind of singular task. We improvise and let them do better one single thing. So the future is that we're going to give those AI agents actually full responsibility to represent, for example, myself, or represent some specific area. My role in a company, for example, is product owner. You will have the product owner agent. Or my role is a developer or tester, right? It's going to be there. Or I'm a supply chain manager. There will be agent responsible, kind of representing you. But then think ahead. Those agents can talk to each other. It shouldn't be like that it's there. So we're actually talking about huge ecosystem of AI agents talking to each other. It sounds like a crazy science fiction we won't believe, but believe me, sooner or later, this is going to be the reality. Yeah? And I have to say it's even now today, because we launched this like 2 months back actually. Our AI lead in Nordics, you can find that video in the LinkedIn, he actually made Cloudy 3 AI agent to interview the GPT-4 agent about AI future and impact on humanity. And this sounds like completely crazy when one AI robot, as a journalist, is talking to other AI about the future of humanity in the age of AI. But this is happening now. There are 2 agents talking to each other already. Right? Okay, to give you the example, startup, do not pay. Right? How you can save the money. They build the solution, and they CEO allowed the AI agent to look at their finances and wrote just a simple prompt, find me money. An agent found that there are the subscriptions you don't use, there are like strange transaction in-flight Wi-Fi, and there are some letters to write to other companies, like to ask for that 20% discount, etc. And this is just one of the examples, right? Meta GPT, they launched the product agent, actually the tool which can replace you to be the product manager, developer, tester, and implementation of the software, actually all in one tool. And maybe in the future, the writing the software actually going to be very, very easy, etc. Yeah. Okay, so the main point here is, of course, is who sets the rules? So to not go in a science fiction that robots take it over, I guess the main point here is that we are the ones who actually set the rules. We are the ones who actually decide how much those agents, on behalf of me, will be able to do. Yeah. But let's see it as the big potential for the increase of productivity for the businesses. Imagine that you can do many things times faster with the AI agents and just go ahead. It just will increase the productivity to the sky. Right? Good. The next one, the space we need, creating value. So many of us remember the metaverse, right? Oh, that was a big fun a year ago, 2 years back. No, it's a metaverse. It's all going to be like there. It's there. So is the metaverse dead? Some people will say, yes, I mean, it kind of show up, it's a bit hype and dead. Some people will say no. And they both are right? So it's not dead. And in fact, we have to look not only at the metaverse, but underlying the underlying technology, which is spatial computing. That's the important part. That's what actually kind of breaks it all. Because the metaverse is just an application there. And you can look at the spatial computing as actually one of the mediums which involves. And when the mediums change, it's a big thing. To give you an example, we had the computers which allowed us to access the data and information from a particular computer in a particular place. That's the stage number one. Stage number two was when we got the tablets and the phones. We actually could access the information from anywhere, but still through the screens. And now imagine that you get a blur of virtual and real world, right, the digital world, through any device or many devices, and you can access that information everywhere. So that's the next stage where we're going to go. And the best example everyone understands is Google Maps. 2005, Google introduced the maps. You can look at the desktop to find a map. What the people did? Still printed out paper, right, where I need to go, and et cetera, et cetera. The big change was actually when you get to Google Maps on a phone, because then you finally, real time, can really do the stuff you need. And imagine the next level of the Google Maps when you can access through, I don't know, virtual glasses and other devices and get real information, et cetera. It's just going to be blowing up, et cetera. So why we talk about this now is that finally the technologies in this area have matured and there is kind of consensus how we're going to do the things. Right? Because before that, it was a little bit of zoo, let's be honest. Right? So the first thing we see is the Pixar came out with the USD file format. You can look at that as something like the way how the websites are described today, but only for the 3D world. There is a unified way how anyone can describe objects in 3D environment so that us as users, we actually get the same feeling all across when we navigate through the different worlds. OpenXR came up with the standard interface for the manufacturer of devices, how they need to build, how we interact actually with devices, so we do the unified way, etc. And that is. And then, of course, the GenAI. I'm coming back to GenAI again. GenAI is an accelerator. The biggest challenge in this space has been building 3D objects. I mean, let's face it, I mean, for the last 30, 40 years, we lived a two-dimensional world. All we had is two-dimensional objects. And now we need to create a three-dimensional. We don't have it. Maybe the gamers, right, the game industry had it, but the rest, I mean, we don't have. If you need even like example of clothes, you need a car or anything, there is no three-dimensional object. We need to build it. And the building is costly and time-consuming. But then we take the GenAI, we talk to NVIDIA's Neural Angelo, and it can take the two-dimensional video clip and create a three-dimensional object for the virtual space in a matter of click. And where is 2D and there is 3D, we go to entertainment park, we want a, what? 4D, right? We want a 5D. So there are companies like Sentient who actually thinks how to introduce the scent, right, the smell in a virtual world whenever you use the headsets. And I'm sure that it's not far from there when actually we're going to also talk about the tasting and all of that also in the virtual world. And when we talked in Riga about this event, one of the panelists said, I mean, it's easy to do because it's all in the brain, actually. The taste of the smell or taste or smell, etc. It's actually a replica of the brain. If you haven't experienced that before, you can easily regenerate that through the brain, the brain signals. Yeah, you don't need actually to physically do that. So from the hype, I guess there will be the big jump in this area for sure, right? Okay, now the last trend, our body is electronic, or human interface, etc. So I'm sure many of you have Siri or Alexa, anything at home, right? Or you have these smart cars where you can use the voice, etc. And when you ask something, many times you get like a wrong response, right? I mean, they start to play a sound, it turns up the temperature, etc. And it's kind of, what the heck is going on, right? And how it's possible. And yeah, technologies don't understand us. And we always have been telling, yeah, I mean, this is the challenge of technologies. We don't understand the technology. The technology is the black box. Is it really? I think the black box are humans. And we think that the black box is humans. Why? Because for centuries, that has been the biggest problem. Do we understand each other? Do we understand other human being? Do we understand other community? Do we understand other tribe? Do we understand other nation? In fact, no. Yeah? So we are the black boxes. But now we are in the stage where technologies have evolved, the technologies can better understand us, and we talk really about the new human interface, because there are technologies like eye tracking, like brain reading, the muscle signals, computer vision, understanding gestures. It really helps the technology to understand us better. In the same way, for the businesses, these are the new opportunities to really introduce something to us as the new services through those new interfaces. Right? And if we have those new interfaces, I have one big question mark. We use now today a lot of the tablets and smartphones. Are those the gadgets in the future? If we have something else, it's a big question, right? Whether it's going to stay, or we're actually going to have different other gadgets, as you can see in the pictures, right? The pin AI and other smart glasses, etc., which is going to be the normal devices which are going to use. So what's available today? Apple Vision Pro, I guess all of us have seen, right? Eye tracking and gesture signals when you do like this, that's all they need. You don't need any clicker or another joystick really to navigate there and do the kind of interaction with the computers. US San Francisco and Stanford universities recently did independent studies defining the neural proteases when they read the brain signals, allowing the people who can speak and turning the brain signals, right, to the speech. Imagine how it helps the people who are disabled, who can really go in a society and live the normal life, right? Waymo, self-driving cars from Google, they're recording everything around them, right? They're recording and trying to understand any object, whether it's a pedestrian or cyclist or any other car, the movements. What they're trying to do now is really based on the micro signals, etc., really kind of predict the next behavior. If it's a cyclist or pedestrian and his movement is like this, okay, he most probably gonna cross the street or something like that, right? So they really can predict what we're gonna do. And then the University of Technology in Sydney, they developed the headset, and they tested with the army, of course, that's the first, right? So they wanted kind of control the robodog. And guess what? They can do with thinking, controlling a robodog with 94% of precision. 94, just thinking. And this is now. Just fast forward a couple of years, and I'm sure we can do that like there. But all this, of course, leads to one basic question to security we always forget, right? Today, Google, social networks, etc., we are like scared. Oh, they know so much about us, right? They read it, they understand us better, etc. Yes, it's true, but at the same time, we ask the question, do we want to share that all information, etc.? And now, for a moment, just think, now they're going to read our brains. Are we okay, really, to put that headset on to do like navigation interaction with the computers when they really control or read the brains? What about our biometric kind of privacy? Is it really reading just what I want to tell, or is reading my potential gesture, or is actually exploring my thoughts? Yeah? So the security will be the core of all of this to going ahead. So what's for the businesses really to going ahead? And this is really one of the last slides, and we go ahead, is there will be huge change in the business. And the first is the lead with the value, right? You have to go ahead and look for the value in every area of the business. Not one area, but all of the business. And it will really redefine how we do the businesses. To build the digital core, right? This is all about like what is the base of the digital business? What is our enterprise architecture? We changed that. Most of the business is changed because we talked about every business being the digital business, right? That you need to change it. But for the AI, you will need completely different enterprise architecture. Talent, work, right? Invest in the people. Think how people will embrace the new technologies, how they will be ready for the new technologies, what's going to be the role of employees in the new businesses. And of course, we need responsible AI. We need AI everyone trusts, etc. And this is continuous process. We are not talking about like a small step that we're going to do this really for next 3 years. This is 5, 10 years kind of reinvention process. And you can't really be spectator in this business going ahead, for any business. You can't watch what your competitor are going to do. Oh, I'm going to follow fast after them. No, you have to be the participant in the business today. And we see two options, really. There is those first speed reaction. You do the fast wins, the kind of the things you can do fast, optimizing your call center operations, doing some chatbots, helping the employees to work faster, etc. But then the next level, of course, is really what is your strategic bet in a business? How are you going to differentiate yourself from any other businesses? Because if everyone will do the AI and everyone will be doing the things faster and faster, right? How are you going to differentiate yourself from the other? Right? The one thing is clear, this is an inflection point in a business. We see a lot of the changes going ahead, right? It's going to be fundamentally different. It's going to be fundamentally different for us as a consumers. It's going to be fundamentally different for the businesses and all of us. And there is a choice to be made for all of us. But the one thing is clear, the technology and all things going ahead has to be human by design, right? So thank you for listening. This was the first part of the presentation. Now I'll ask to the panel, 4 of our guests, Gintare Grigaita, the head of strategy in Telia, Ursula Koski, the CTO for Nordic countries for Amazon Web Services, Linas Belunas as the country manager for Flutterwave, and Gediminas Pekšis as CEO founder of Oxipit. We're going to continue discussion about the tech vision and trends we have seen so far. So please join me on the stage. Good. Thank you for joining. And maybe before we start, I have one small question, and I will start with you.
Okay.
Right? So I gave an example of telco implementing the GenAI and kind of saving a lot of time for the employees and also making the employees more happier. For you as a head of strategy for Telia and maybe also in the telecom industry in general, how do you see it going ahead? How much telecom companies or other companies will really implement that going ahead? Is it really like must? Is it already now? And how it actually going to impact the business?
So if it is now or if it is must, so it is definitely must. Yeah. Telefonica is probably the most advanced telecom operator in the world, and they are known for their digital visionary in telco market, and they have chose that path, I think, in 2012. And since then, they have invested billions of money to reshape the telecommunication from traditional operator to a platform provider. So this artificial intelligence platform is their 4th platform that they use, and I think it was 2018 when they launched this Aura, and it was primarily not for employees. At first, it was for customers to use their services instead of calling, just use this natural language model then, and just to speak to digital agent and to have configuration of your services and so forth. But I haven't seen any other examples at the same scale as Telefonica did, so, and they are one of the hugest players in 2 continents. Telia is now exploring the possibilities that OpenAI gave us, because it's now cheaper and easier to do things. You don't have to invest that money in all the infrastructure changes and so forth to build your insight solution. So yes, we do it in a company level. We have Center of Excellence, building the use cases for employees, for customers, and customer is the priority. We are advanced with machine learning there when to provide all this personalized offers and solutions, all the communication, TV content, and so forth. But the agent help and the customer help with generative AI is still on the way, I would say. Yeah. And if we would look for other telecoms, it's also a as it is expensive thing to do, what we see, cooperation. There are, I think, 4 telco operators, 2 from Europe and 2 from Asia, that now are implementing this GenAI alliance, and they are trying to build use cases for the telco together.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, building and maintaining AI is expensive, right?
Yes,
we
it
can
is.
talk about the next level of, okay, how sustainable it's going to be in the long run and how much energy it's going to consume. But it's good to hear that the telcos are understanding that the fight you need to make are for consumers, and there where you can cooperate actually in the area. Ursula, maybe for you as the representative of Amazon, the hyperscalers, right? What do you see from your business? What are the most demanded AI services today, or are the clients coming and saying, we expect from you to build this one?
Yeah, there's a lot of also that you might get a very specific request. We have a use case, we have an industry, we would have a demand for something. One thing for myself also to understand, like, this is a huge opportunity for us as humans also, as businesses. So I was kind of wrapping my brain around, like, what are the investment areas? Because let's be honest, look at the industry we are in. This is the biggest investment in the whole industry, not talking about just Amazon Web Services, but the whole industry is making, and the change will be bigger than ever. So this is one of the revolutions we are seeing. So what are the areas that we see? We have to start with data. So we know that we are really good in collecting data. So we have plenty of data, it's everywhere. But we were not that good in using it. So the focus on data and analytics is one part. The second part is the language. So how do we interact? So of course it changes when I don't need to pick up my phone to do something or type into my laptop, I want to search something. I can use my voice and my language. But the impact of language and understanding ourselves is such a critical factor. So I love the approach of having that black box of as humans. So if we understand our identity, so our language identity, who am I, how do I react, why do I react, that is huge opportunity also for businesses. And then we have 2 other areas that I see, privacy security, because of course there's a lot of borderline cases where you have a beautiful use case, but it flips to a very negative use case suddenly when it's in the wrong hands. And one last part, and I'm very focused on this, and I would say this is one of the most important also factors for countries, education. We need to learn to use this. We need to learn to use it for education, for good purposes, and of course the law and legislation side. So I would say those 4 areas are the focus areas, and then we can have specialized solutions.
Yeah, thank you. And the learning, I guess, will never stop. I mean, now it's even more, right? Yeah, it's technology is understanding us better, but we still need to learn how to use them, and etc. It will become easier. Linas, maybe the question for you as a representative of finance sector, if I can say so, right? One of those surveys said that 72% of the work in the financial sector will be impacted, right? So either the banks or the insurance companies. Do you think that it can be even more, or that's already like too high expectation? And how it actually going to change the financial sector?
This is a very good, very difficult, but very interesting question. So, we are often very wrong with the estimates for the long run, as well as we are also wrong with the estimates with the short, term. But if we look what's happening right now, I guess we first need to decide and define what we are willing to give or outsource to AI, or technology in general, and then kind of a work from there. What's happening right now? It's kind of obvious and not too much surprising. I guess the most interesting, or let's say obvious use case came from Klarna. So probably the hottest fintech right now, who is I hope they will IPO this year, early next year. So they publicly released their kind of experiment with Open AI GPT-4, where they'll basically build a customer service rep, and it was either on par or exceeded human agents, and basically replaced around 700 full-time employees. And Klarna currently employs in customer services only, I think, 3,000 employees, whether contractors or full-time in-house. So if that's actually true, and I heard different opinions, some people who actually were able to use Klarna, we cannot because they're not here in Lithuania or in the Baltics. They said that that bot is kind of a crap. Others said, yeah, this is true. I mean, there are some different things of how you need to approach it, but actually the potential is there. So I guess the customer service piece is the obvious part. Another part, which is kind of not that obvious, but also very, very beneficial, is in terms of how you can communicate with the data that you have. I think one of the leading players here, unsurprisingly, is JP Morgan. So the biggest bank, one of the biggest banks in the world, super powerful, moves trillions a day, I believe. And they developed their own language model, large language model, basically to interact with the data and read whether receipts, checks, which are very popular in the US still, not sure how is that even possible, reports, and basically you as an employee, you can kind of very much interact more easily and streamline all these massive processes that are either paper-based or very human time-consuming, I would say. So I think 70%. I mean, we can basically we cannot really think of the number of how big of an impact it could have, but the current trends are kind of obvious, and we definitely will eliminate most of the mundane tasks that can be automated or outsourced to AI.
Yeah, thank you. And Gediminas, you're representing the health industry, so to say, with your startup, etc. And talking about the Gen AI agents, so to say, etc. Right? One of the obvious use case might be, I have a Gen AI doctor I'm call, or Gen AI doctor is calling about results of my investigation. Do you think that's a possibility? People will kind of trust the Gen AI doctor?
Okay. Good question. I think that the current generation of Gen AI is not yet performing in a very consistent way. So in healthcare, the field, in spite of being #1 industry in terms of AI investments, it's a very conservative field. And I feel that the future of the next 5 years will probably not be generative AI still. It will be very high confidence automation of certain segments of healthcare. And that you could consider in a way to be an agent, but it still will probably be specialized AI applications. Yeah.
Okay, and then continuing with your area, the third trend talks about virtual reality and the blend of virtual and physical, so to say. And in Riga, when we did a similar event, right, we had on stage a local startup and Connexus, which builds the virtual applications for the kind of how you need to treat a patient, and also for the army, really to train up the people in difficult situations, right? How to help them. Do you think that it can go also in your area in investigations as a help for the doctors more in the virtual realm, or it's gonna stay just an advisor, let's say, in the physical world?
Well, it's again difficult question to answer, but I believe that real people will stay for a very long time as doctors. We have to build. I think that technology is already there for some of the replacement to take part. One of the examples is actually us spearheading innovation in the field of radiology, where we had landmark approval, CE mark for first medical device to be used without radiologists to do radiologist's job. But still, the healthcare space, I think, will take several years to even harness the possibilities of this type of automation, right? And still, humans will stay there for the difficult part, right? For the difficult patients and difficult diagnosis for now.
thank you. Talking about the virtual kind of world, etc. Also, a question to you, maybe in Amazon, and maybe not on Amazon. One of the use cases for the virtual applications is, of course, the training of the people, right? To give the kind of better experience, but also, I mean, replica of real world might be dangerous or maybe too expensive simply, right? Or testing out to build a, I don't know, data center facility for testing might be, I assume, very, very costly. How do you see, I mean, in Amazon or maybe other companies, will that be more used in the training purposes?
It definitely will be. So like you said, that some things might be too expensive to experiment in the real world, because the experimentation takes both time. You have to maybe move fundamental, like physical objects. If you can build that as a virtual experience and you try it out, you say, oh, this doesn't work. It can be in many, many industries. So I would assume like healthcare is probably like one of the controversial ones, and also there's a lot of safety concerns. But let's take like new product development. So car manufacturing, for example, or like said, the server site building, there might be physical limitations which you already notice in the practice. This doesn't work, we need to change this. This will never be functional this way. And then you actually cut the time that will be used for the actual build. So I think also it's our mind is the limitation. There could be incredible use cases that we haven't even thought of yet where we could use this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then talking about the fourth trend, or body electronics, one of the predictions there is that is there the future for the mobile phones? And Ginter maybe being represented as a telco, right? How do you see that? Because okay, we had the landlines, now we moved to the mobile, and the big question is, what's next?
I was looking to your presentation then, and in one of them, I think it was trend number 2, the guy was wearing the glasses and going to the machines to orchestrate, and that still the girl took the smartphone and used Copilot in there. So I think that smartphones will change, but in a next 5 years, probably they will still remain the main part for us, how to deal with the digital world. What is my perception is not that it is the common view from telcos, but the way I think it, the trend will change from centralizing everything to one device, as we did with the smartphone, but we will decentralize it to numerous of gadgets that we use and make them very seamless in our world. They will just help us with numerous situations. One gadget might help you to assist, be a personal assistant in finding information, calling, and so forth. Another can be there for you to track your health. Another can be, and I think we have one on the finger for you, yes, tracking your emotions.
Yes.
It's also almost at the telephone.
So I think that we will spread to more devices. Internet of Things is definitely one of the things that will spread very high in upcoming years. So, yeah, so smartphone will evolve, so to say.
Okay, thank you. And then a question to almost everyone, and feel free to respond. I'd say, given that the change of the technology, right? And even if we look at the first trend that we kind of entered, that the technology will read our brains, right? There is a capable of reading the brains or thoughts or kind of what we want to tell, I mean, muscle signals, etc. What about kind of society readiness really to use those devices, even in like longer term, right? Because we are already scared at how much the social networks know about us and etc. We want to, okay, there is a pool of people who kind of, if it's for free, then it's fine, right? But there are a lot of the people who are actually concerned about that. Are we ready, really, as a society, to kind of these level of changes? And any one of you, feel free.
Yeah, so maybe I could pick it up. No, we are not. And I think that's basically, you perfectly presented that when you shared the slides about the electricity printing press. So there's always kind of a backlash, and I think it's kind of very rational, because we already see very, very numerous examples. One maybe from my field happened relatively recently in Hong Kong. Again, I cannot kind of attest to the authenticity, but kind of a, let's say, well-known publication shared the story where an employee of a finance firm was summoned by the CEO and CFO to a virtual call. They had a conversation, and I think he was asked to transfer $20 million. Turned out that all the CFO, CEO were like deep fakes. It was kind of all AI generated, and somebody got a good amount of cash in their bank. So that's kind of one thing. The other one, we see a lot of people just basically generating fake IDs who are hard to distinguish from real ones, even by the companies who work in the field. So whether it's Veriv, Jumia's, these guys are specializing. They have machine learning algorithms before they were cool, kind of really experts in the field, and they still fail to detect. And the most probably obvious example, which I'm not sure why is still happening, especially in Lithuania, where you see numerous cases where a grandma in Vilnius gave 20,000 K to a prisoner because he pretended to be her son, right? But imagine with all these advanced AI tools, even ChatGPT, where you can clone the voice of your son, daughter, mother, and you can do those calls acting exactly as you.
In real time, even.
Exactly, and with very little latency, and kind of we are not ready for that, and we don't have the proper guardrails, primarily because kind of hackers or let's say wrongdoers as such, they're always one step ahead, and all the preventive measures are actually reactive rather than proactive. So that's probably not the positive response, but I guess we need to talk about it more and more as the technology advances.
Yeah.
If I jump in here, I agree we are not ready, and one of the biggest challenges that I see right now is that the pace of change is now humongous. So what we see now, so if we would decide to meet here 1 year from now, I guarantee there will be at least 5 things that is happening in the world that we cannot predict. It will be incredible. 5 years from now, we don't recognize this world as the same technology, society, professionalism, etc. in good and bad. So there will be those risks. On the other hand, the opportunity, so if you flip it around and look at the opportunity of the language model, the language technology, fundamentally everything that we do is still based on emotion, it's based on data, it's based on how much we see and interact with each other. Fundamentally, it can give us the tool to understand ourselves. Why do I behave this way? Why is the person in front of me behaving this way? And that would be a tool to use for peace building. So we could actually build peace.
Lost the connection, I guess, to sound.
I was also, wanted to continue with that opportunities, and if we are ready. So even though we're not ready today, from the security spectrum, majority of the telecommunications and Telia as well have it in their agenda to ensure the security through the networks. And if you would scan the strategies for European telcos, for global telcos, you would see that security is the leading theme there. So that is coming, that is ongoing, and I would say that we are preparing. If we would jump then to the prognosis, World Economic Forum has said that miscommunication generated by artificial intelligence in upcoming 2 years will be #1 threat for business and human, but in 10 years it will decrease and fall into 5th position. So that's because a lot of things are ongoing in that area and all the regulation and so forth. It is not, so to say, left to die. It is a very important topic that a lot of people are working on that to ensure that we are ready.
And I will not ask what's going to be the #1 in 10 years. So
it's ecological issues.
Okay, but talking about the guardrails, etc., some of you already mentioned. We have the new EU AI Act in place now, right? Approved like almost now, right? Do you believe it will help us or actually let us behind compared to the countries where the act is not present? Because those countries or the companies actually in those countries will be able to go ahead much faster. Okay, there is a question of kind of legal side and other topics, right? But do you think it's going to help us or actually stop us?
Yeah, so I feel we are already way behind as Europe, at least in terms of USA and China developments of the AI. And now European Union is betting on AI Act in this whole field as something which will make us special. So I feel that for certain industries, it might actually help the adoption, like in medicine. If you clearly define what is acceptable, then that becomes like the norm and will propel the adoption. But in many other areas, given that we are already behind, if you look at the publications, 70% of them are coming from the US. And right now, the ecosystem is closing up. It was very open before that, so the knowledge was shared. But the recent advancements in large language models made so that it became sensitive information for OpenAI to share, for Google to share. So there is a gap, and I feel that it will grow significantly in some industries.
And the fact that we don't have any European AI company at the scale which compete with the big ones, I guess, is the big one. Anyone to comment?
Yeah, I would definitely say that there's a huge need for those guardrails, but the pace of change is forcing us to change also the legislation and the controls very rapidly, and I don't think we are necessarily ready for that. And one thing that I would like to remind you about, if you look at the data, so the data is fundamental piece in making business decisions, making any hiring decisions, customer-facing decisions. We inherently put our biases into that data. So there was already, before we talked about AI, ML, we talked about data quality and human bias. So we need to also lead with the fundamental piece of data. Do we have guardrails? Do we understand the bias? And who gets to set the rules? I think that's one of the really key issues. And even though we need the guardrails, they have to be there, but they shouldn't be a blocker for the whole industry innovation.
Yeah, thank you. Linus?
Yeah, I 100% agree with the colleague here. And I guess the biggest problem that I see in maybe EU or Europe, not sure what's the right term to use here, is that we celebrate regulation. We don't celebrate innovation. And the picture that we saw, by the if I would call them bureaucrats, kind of maybe would be not the positive term, but let's say regulators, the cheer in their eyes and the happy faces when they passed yet another regulation, I think it kind of tells it all. And I mean, while we should basically focus on being the first on innovation, doing something specific, but we regulate, so that's the status quo right now.
I would agree definitely with that one. Good. Anyway, thank you for your discussions. Thank you, listeners online.